Hi, Linda Winter here. I want to show you our heart template. This is a Martelli template, not a Winter Designs, but I gave this away on my Facebook giveaway. So if y'all have been participating, this is what one of you got. And the lips, I'll talk about that in a little bit. I gave the lips away because we made it to $13.50. If you are new to my YouTube and to my Facebook, make sure you go follow the information that I have on the screen and below so you can be a part of my giveaway. I do a giveaway pretty much every month. And these guys here, the hearts, they're 4 hearts. There's 4 different sizes here. You get a 4, 6, 8, 10. It's the width, it's not the height. It's almost the same, but we're looking at the width. Hearts are hearts. There's a bunch of heart projects out there, but I'm going to have Zeke pan over and show you some of the things that Heather made. You've got clothes here you can see on the side here. There's 2 different hearts. I think this is the background. Yeah, there's a heart here and a heart here. Hearts, and then we have another one where she did a heart on the sleeve, which is really cool too. This is done by Lisa, and this is a pillow top. This has our hearts, and then there's lips. We have lips, and the lips are really cool. The lips were my second giveaway, and there's some really cool stuff that you can do with lips. You can make a zipper purse out of this. You can make a pillow out of the Mickey or fur or whatever. So there are some really great projects. Go to my Facebook. I have some pictures there. So let me get that out of the way, and I want to show you how to cut, because that's the biggest thing when you're dealing with the heart. The heart template is folded in half. And if we look at the package, I'm just going to pull out one of the smaller sizes. This is our 6-inch, and here's the 4-inch too. You can see we've got a fold here, but this is cut. This guy went in here. The reason we did that is cheaper. That Get a Grip material, this is enough for you to grab. So we want to make this as easy and consistent as possible. I mentioned 10 inches for the width. So this is our 10-inch block. If you own the Martelli layer cake template, that's what this is, then you can use it. If you have the 10.5, you can use it too. Either way, this is only if you want to do this extra step. It just makes your life a little bit easier. I have 4 layers here. Imagine that I have 2 different fabrics. We'll go through the materials in just a minute, but I want to show you this as an option. When you've got a fabric that has a direction on it, then making sure that this is lined up correctly makes a difference. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because my folds probably aren't even correct. When we cut our squares, that Get a Grip material, just like on the hearts, that Get a Grip material grabs. So what I want to do is first cut out our blocks. And again, this is an option. I'll show you how to do it with the scrap later on. We're going to start on the side and roll backwards and forwards. The reason why is if I start here, I'm hitting that edge. And if I start over here, I may not be on the edge, and when I go to piece this, if this were a quilt block, this block wouldn't match. Right now, I start at the edge, roll backwards and forwards, then I turn that template. That Get a Grip is basically a mini turntable. Start on that edge, roll backwards and forwards, turn and roll backwards and forwards. You get the idea. So this allows me to cut my squares. I don't need to have the squares. I can just start with the scrap fabric and then use the template. Either way you go, doesn't really matter. So let's talk about materials. If you have a 10-inch or a 10.5-inch or 11 or whatever size, you can use that. That's that Get a Grip. We're going to want to have 2 fabrics for the pockets and 2 fabrics for the inside and the back. I'm going to show you this one. It's not finished yet. Do you see this here? But this is kind of the style that we're going to do. You'll see on my Facebook that I'm showing you different styles, but this is the one I'm going to walk you through. It's a little heart pot holder. So you've got your fabric here for a pocket. You've got a fabric here for a pocket. So 1, 2 pieces. Then we've got this inside here, and we've got the outside, that back side. So 2 of each. Then inside of here, you're going to need some batting. The thinner batting is better than the really heavy batting. This is a little bit heavy. We're going to use a single layer if you do a fatter batting. If you do a thinner layer, then we can fold that and double it. Here's some Insulbrite inside, or you can use this iron top stuff, this stuff on the back instead of a fabric on the back. What you don't want to do is have a whole lot of bulk. When you have a whole lot of bulk here, it loses the shape of a heart and it's really hard to turn. So it makes it a little bit difficult. If you're doing something thicker and you don't want to turn it, that's when you can use something like this. This seam binding tape you can see here. I've got this on the back side, and I can use the seam binding tape around to finish this. If you're doing this method, you'll want to do one thing that I didn't do. And I had a little scrap. Can't find it, so let's grab one of these. You want to give yourself a piece of fabric. Let's see if I can get one real fast. I'm going to rip this. And we want to have a piece that we can turn into basically like a little tie here. Imagine I take the time and I fold it over and I stitch. That way it can hang from your stove or from your hook in your kitchen or whatever it is. Okay, so we need scissors that are bigger scissors, and then embroidery scissors that have a sharp point. You need some straight pins. As much as I love Wonder Clips and the Martelli zip guns, we need straight pins for this project. So what are we going to do? We start with a square or a piece of fabric that is bigger than 10 inches. We're going to fold our fabric in half. I'm going to grab one layer, and you need the Martelli rotary cutter. We have the 45 millimeter and we have the 28 millimeter. Either of those will work. Again, when we're using a directional fabric, we want to make sure that our lines are nice and straight. If this is your first time working with the Martelli template, don't use a directional fabric. Use one of these instead that doesn't have, even though that has the direction, it's not so much where the lines need to be lined up. I fold it in half and I want to place the template right along the edge. I mentioned it's 10 inches in width. I cut a 10-inch square. That means I'm right along the edge. Those of you that own layer cakes, this is a perfect layer cake project. And if you don't know layer cakes are the fabrics that have already come all pre-coordinated for you, and they're cut at 10 inches. When I go to cut, see how that grabs? That material is going to grab. So because I'm left-handed, I'm going to start right along here, and I'm looking at that edge to make sure that the fabric is right on that fold or the edge of the template. So the fold of the fabric is right along the edge of that template. And make sure you don't have a bubble here. So when I go to cut, again, the 45 millimeter or the 28 millimeter, most of you have the 45, so that's what I'm going to use. There's two ways to cut. That's a cut off and turn the template, and then a cut off and turn the template, and then cut around and turn the template. Or you can cut and continue to cut, moving that template as you go, as you need it. I show you in my other videos cutting off versus cutting around, so we don't need to worry too much about that. So I've got my piece here that's already cut. This is my heart. I want you to cut one out of this material that's a heart, and then we're going to cut two of these. These guys here, these are going to be the pockets, and it doesn't matter whether you do a lighter fabric or a darker fabric, but these are our pockets, and we're going to be doing, again, the same process, folding that, placing that on, looking at the direction. Here I don't have so much a line and a line, vertical and horizontal. I've got a direction here, so we would place this on and we would cut a pocket. The next thing we want to do is cut our batting. I've got a batting here that I've doubled up. If it's a thick batting, then we're going to cut that heart in half. I'm not going to do all the steps just because I don't want this to be a 30-minute video, but imagine if this were a thicker batting, or you were going to use Insulbright. You don't need Insulbright here because your fingers here aren't going to be touching the pot, the pan, whatever it is. But if you're doing Insulbright or a thicker batting, then just do a single layer and cut that heart in half. Or when you go to cut with this, you can just square off with your ruler, place this along the edge. Imagine I'm doing this here even. We can do one like this and cut around here. And that will give me, imagine that's batting that I have down here, that would give me half. So thicker battings, we're going to do that piece in half. Okay, so we end up with the two pieces for the pockets, and then the two pieces here. One of them is a heart. I'm going to grab my Insulbright. I'm going to place this down, and the next thing I want you to do is stabilize this. This and this, they're different materials, so what we want to do, and I'm actually going to go this way, we're going to stabilize, meaning we're going to stitch, 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 we're going to stitch. All those straight lines, this fabric's got those straight lines. If you have a fabric like this, you can see on this pink here that I use those lines to stitch. So you can follow along your stitch lines there, or just use whatever foot that you have in stitch. Why do I want to do that? Again, it just keeps my fabrics together. Next thing we want to do is stitch around the edge. You can see that I've done that here. Stitching around the edge just keeps all those fabrics together for me. So now when I go to the next step, it makes it a little bit easier. You can leave this as a square and then cut out with your big scissors around that heart. You can also take your Insulbright and fold in half and use the template. But the problem is now I've got all this fabric and it's harder to cut all those layers with the rotary cutter. So I recommend doing the square, stitching, you've already cut this, doing that stabilizing basically, and then take your scissors and cut around. So now we've got this piece. Okay, so we're going to grab that, and now we're going to take our two pockets. I've got a pocket here and I've got a pocket here. You can see this one I didn't cut out the back side, so totally up to you. But you know, there's 20 different ways to skin a cat, as they say. So that's what we're going to do. So what have I done here? I folded this in half. So now I've got this half. You notice if I leave this open, that this and then this pocket, there's not really a whole lot of room for my fingers. I like where there's a little bit of an opening here for your thumb to go in, and then you've got some opening, plus it just shows that fabric. So what I've done is I've just folded this back, and I did this once I pinned here. I just folded this back, And then I'm going to go to the sewing machine and just stitch from here to here. The first side doesn't matter, but the second side, we want this width to be the same as over here, because that's going to give me the distance here and the distance there, and I want it to be the same. You can put a binding on here too if you like. I just like the idea that this has a little bit of a, I don't know, just some weight to it. So we would do that, and then we trim this off, and then we'd stitch around. Once we stitch all of that around, we're going to cut this piece. Here I cut it first. Totally up to you again. We're going to cut all of that. Once we stitch that around, then we're going to take our last piece of fabric. Imagine that's all been stitched down. I get rid of all of these guys. These are basically straight pins. They're Martelli's quilting clips. They're really cool because they stand up and they're very sharp. So we're going to pretend that all of that is stitched around. Once you've done that, now we're going to place this on. So this would be cut down. It would look like this. Let's do this here. Instead of pretending, let's do this. We're going to go here. We're going to go here. We've stitched that down. We're going to be here. And now we're going to stitch all of these layers. When we pin all of this, this is a cheater method. You can, of course, cut all these hearts out ahead of time, but I figured out way back when, hey, I don't have to. I don't have to line all of these things up. So we would pin, and we would pin, and then we would go to the sewing machine, and I probably would pin over here. Again, we'd trim that off. So we'd pin this here, and I even like to stitch that down. I think that's what I did on mine. Stitch this down first to lock that in. And then we line all these things up. Now we've got this outline of my heart for me to stitch around. And then when I stitch around, you're going to leave an opening where you turn. Not down here, because where you turn is this, and then that's really hard, all that bulk, for you to get back in there. Give yourself an opening here. An opening here will allow you to turn a little bit easier. That's one method. Another option is, if I can find it, here. And like I had it before with that Insulbrite on the back, let's go to this one. The Insulbrite on the back, that's what we've got here. Not Insulbrite, the iron top. You guys know, if you've watched my videos, I always call that iron top stuff Insulbrite. So we've stitched this around. We've stitched this around. This is stitched down. And once we've done that, then we can add the seam binding. You decide if you want to deal with the binding or if you want to turn it. I think on the next one that I do, and probably the ones that I would give away as gifts, I would use the seam binding. I think it's going to be a little bit easier to do the loop and just to finish off nice. And you can do it with a decorative stitch. You don't have to do a straight stitch there. A decorative stitch just gives you a nice little finish and gives it a pop. Okay, I think that's it. I'll have written directions that I'll post on my website on Winter Designs at some point in the future. If you end up getting the templates, you can email me and I'll email you the directions too when I get them finished. Hope you have a great time with this. I'd love to see your pictures. Hope this makes sense. I know I was kind of here, there, and everywhere, but hopefully you'll get it. Those of you that have seen my videos before, most of this stuff is referenced in other videos. So let me know how you like this. Thanks for watching.